I never expected a millionaire's offer. Until a chef amazed him in 4 languages. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. Tears streamed down my face as I watched the world I knew crumble. It started with just a knock at the door. A simple sound that echoed through my empty apartment like a death knell. My heart raced, my hands trembled. What would unfold was beyond my wildest imaginations. The air felt thick with tension as I opened the door. There he stood, a man dressed in a tailored suit that seemed to shine under the dim hallway light. A millionaire. But that wasn't the strangest part. It was the way he spoke, smoothly transitioning between French, Italian, and Chinese, all while seamlessly weaving in his captivating English. Each word rolled off his tongue like a serenade, captivating every fiber of my being. Who was this man? What did he want? My stomach twisted as I led him inside. My small kitchen filled with the scent of burnt garlic, remnants of my last failed dinner attempt. My mother, a cherished chef, had taught me every recipe and secret. But I felt her absence heavier than ever now, her gentle voice echoing in my mind, urging me not to let the page turn. My father had left years ago, leaving only memories of bitterness and disappointment behind him. Were better days even possible? The millionaire's gaze pierced through my despair. I felt exposed, every flaw laid bare before him. He noticed my trembling hands, reaching out to touch the chipped mug cradled in my palm, offering reassurance or perhaps judgment. You have potential, he said softly. I can help you become the chef you dream of. My chest tightened. Did he see me? Truly see me? I wanted to believe, but fear clawed at my insides. What did he expect in return? Sacrifice? A hidden agenda? I needed answers, and my mind buzzed with questions like an angry hive. As I pondered, unexpected emotions flashed like lightning. Hope mingled with dread, then he slid an envelope across the table. My heart stopped. It felt heavy, full of promise and peril. My breath caught in my throat. What did that piece of paper hold? Was it a lifeline or a trap? Before I could reach for it, a sudden crash echoed from the street outside. My heart leapt, and my body froze. The rattle of glass and metal sent rippling waves of anxiety down my spine. Instinctively, I turned back to the millionaire. He held my gaze steadfast, unwavering amid chaos. But just as swiftly as the noise broke through, it vanished, leaving an eerie silence behind. The tension felt palpable. I could sense we were on the brink of something incredibly dangerous and thrilling. Could a mere offer from a stranger change my life forever? Would I take the risk? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The envelope lay there, sleek and foreboding, the weight of its content seeming to press down on my heart. The room felt so still, as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting for me to make the next move. I could see the glimmer of determination in the millionaire's eyes, a kind of fervor that sparked both admiration and suspicion within me. But what did I know about trust? It felt like a luxury I could no longer afford. With a trembling hand, I reached for the envelope. The instant my fingers brushed against its surface, something inside me ignited. It was as if the fragile hope stirring within me caught fire, but doubt quickly doused that flame. What if I opened it and found out he wanted something I could not give? The fear of not being enough tightened like a vice around my chest. Take your time, he said, his voice smooth as silk, laced with an understanding that both unnerved and comforted me. You're in control of this moment. I held his gaze, searching for the ulterior motive behind those bright, intelligent eyes. An unexpected warmth flickered within me. Was he genuinely trying to help, or was this all a game to him? Drawing a sharp breath, I tore open the envelope, unveiling a contract alongside a check that seemed to shimmer with possibilities. $15,000. I whispered, my voice barely carrying across the space between us. The weight of such a sum was staggering, but what could it mean? I let my eyes dart across the lines of text, a mixture of obligations, expectations, promises. It was more than a mere piece of paper, it was a portal to a life I dared not dream of. Consider this a starting point, he said, leaning closer, his presence both overwhelming and thrilling. An opportunity to train under the finest chefs in the city, to hone your skills and turn your passion into reality. But the very thought of pursuing my dreams wrapped me in a cocoon of anxiety. My mother's voice reverberated in my mind, her laughter, her admiration for the culinary arts, her relentless belief in my talent. Yet here I was, paralyzed by uncertainty, the very ambition that once fueled me now an insurmountable wall. Am I worthy of this? The question slipped from my lips before I could catch it, raw and unrefined. He paused, studying me with a keen intensity. You have more potential in you than you realize. It's time to reclaim your passion. Let me guide you. Yet as I contemplated his offer, another crash came from the street below, shattering the fragile moment once more. This time, the sound felt more urgent, layered with the turmoil of unkind fate. I moved to the window, curiosity propelling me closer to the glass. I could see a small crowd gathering, uncertain and anxious, their faces a collage of concern. My heart sank with a sense of impending dread. What is it? I asked, urgency in my tone. He mirrored my curiosity, but I could sense he was reluctant to leave the conversation incomplete. Let's check it out, he suggested, his voice cutting through the weight in the air. We dashed down the stairwell, my heart racing both from the offer lingering in the back of my mind and the fear of what awaited us outside. As we emerged from the building, a sea of whispered conversations floated around us. In the midst of the crowd, I spotted the remnants of an overturned bike, fragments of glass scattered like shattered promises across the pavement, glinting cruelly under the evening sun. Panic surged through me. Is anyone hurt? I managed to ask, my voice shaky. Just then, I saw a flash of red hair, a familiar figure kneeling amidst the chaos. It was Rachel, my long-lost friend from culinary school, her hands deftly working to assess a fallen child, a young girl clutching her knee in distress. My heart lurched at the sight of her, fluttering remnants of hope battling with the uncertainty of our past. Rachel! I hollered, pushing through the crowd, a mix of disbelief and yearning crashing over me. Our eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the world narrowed to just the two of us, memories flooding back in a tumultuous wave. She rushed over as I caught up, her brow furrowed with concern. I didn't know you were back in town, she said breathlessly. It's been too long. I stumbled over my words, the offer and everything it entailed hovering in the foreground of my thoughts, but before I could explain, her gaze drifted over to the man beside me, moments hanging thick with unspoken tension. And who is this? The question hung in the air, sparking an array of emotions I had yet to process. Who was he? What did this fleeting encounter mean for the path stretching ahead of me? As disbelief wrestled with hopes and fears in my chest, the fleeting moments of kindness and familiarity loomed large, and in that crucial instant, I felt the ground shifting beneath my feet. The weight of what was yet to come promised something unbearable. The revelation that lay before me was no longer confined to a mere envelope. It was as intricate and layered as the dishes my mother once crafted with love and intention. The moment rippled outwards, leaving us all suspended on the verge of an unfolding narrative that held the power to redefine everything I thought I knew, each second growing heavier, entrapping me in the vortices of fate and friendship entwined with promises unfulfilled. Would I leave it behind or dare to leap into the unknown? And just as I was about to answer, the sirens wailed in the distance, a herald of chaos and change rushing towards us. Everything seemed to blur as I stood there, feeling the weight of Rachel's gaze and the unease of the moment. The siren screamed louder, and I could not shake off the sense that our lives were about to collide in ways I hadn't anticipated. The bright red of the paramedic's truck reflected the turmoil within me. Would the universe gently guide me towards my dreams, or was it simply a cruel trick, reminding me of all I had lost? Rachel knelt beside the girl, trying to impart calm, and I remembered the bond we once shared, a friendship forged over endless nights spent over bubbling pots and sizzling pans, trying to figure out the recipes our mothers had handed down. I felt a sudden rush of nostalgia and longing, yet the reality of our shared history was thick with instability, ghosted by my own doubts. Is she going to be okay? I called out, my heart pounding not just for the child but for Rachel and our chaotic past. She'll be fine, Rachel replied, her voice steady but her forehead pinched with concentration. Just a scrape and some shock. She helped the girl's mother to comfort her, and I could see a flicker of that old fire in her eyes, a passion unmatched in all my memories. In that small moment, a flicker of hope emerged, ignited by her determination. I turned back to the millionaire, who stood a step behind me, his expression inscrutable. A pang of insecurity twisted my stomach. Was he judging me for my past, for standing at the crossroads of ambition and fear? Will you be all right here? He asked suddenly, his voice low and soothing amidst the chaos. I could call someone. I cut him off, hearing the tremor in my voice. No. I want to help. The words spilled out, raw and unrefined, pouring forth like the frantic passion I had worked so hard to keep under wraps. As I moved towards Rachel, my heart pounded with a defiance I hadn't felt in ages. The urge to reclaim my sense of purpose surged through me, urging me to face my fears. Can I help? I offered, kneeling next to Rachel. With a soft smile and a knowing glance, Rachel nodded. Absolutely. Just distract her, and he'll get the first aid kit. And so I leaned towards the girl, her wide-eyed innocence pulling at my heartstrings. Hey there, I said, trying to keep my voice playful and light. I know you're feeling a little wobbly, but superheroes always get back up after a fall, just like you. Can you show me your best superhero pose? The girl chuckled, a fragile laugh breaking through the tension. For a fleeting moment, laughter fluttered through the air, wrapping around us like an embrace. I locked eyes with Rachel, who returned my gaze with a bright, infectious warmth. Perhaps the bond we'd once shared still flickered beneath our uncertainties. As Rachel tended the girl's scraped knee, I turned back to the millionaire, who had stepped closer, quietly observing the scene. You really care about people, don't you? I said, surprised by the earnestness of my words. To be honest, it's hard not to when you see moments like this, he replied evenly. It reminds us of our humanity. His gaze felt different now, less like a judgment, more like a reflection of the humanity I was desperately trying to reclaim. But alongside that flicker of connection, an undercurrent of fear crept in. Was this moment of kindness merely a facade? A reminder that the world was still full of uncertainty, and beneath his facade of wealth and charm, he could harbor his own intentions, just as I had been resurrecting the dreams I had buried. A moment stretched painfully as we waited for help to arrive. The sirens had faded somewhat, but the anticipation crept back with every passing second. The atmosphere thickened with unspoken thoughts, the weight of our past clinging stubbornly to its shadows. And just as the paramedics arrived, the little girl's mother enveloped her in a protective embrace, her gratitude clear and tangible. The fear in the air began to dissipate, but the heaviness in my heart only grew stronger. Life had a way of both revealing truths and masking them in layers we couldn't see. I glanced at Rachel, who caught the glimmer of uncertainty in my eyes. Let's talk after this, she said, her voice quiet but urgently sincere. Did she sense that old connection sparking to life again, against the odds? Yes, I replied, uncertainty mingling with an ember of hope. But as the commotion died down, I turned to the millionaire, ready to address the offer resting heavily in my pocket. But just as I opened my mouth, the air seemed to thrum with ominous energy. Another sound rippled in from off the street, heartbreaking and raw, causing my heart to leap into my throat. A child's voice, fragile and trembling, echoed through the crowd. Mom. Help! Suddenly, everything shifted again, and I realized the scope of whatever lay ahead was about to expand dramatically. Would I dive into my dreams, or would I remain tethered to fear, caught in a struggle where nothing could be taken for granted? Just as that thought settled, a figure emerged from the shadows, watching with keen eyes and an unfathomable intent, and I felt my heart skip, teetering on the brink of a revelation I never saw coming. The call for help reverberated through me, sending cold shivers down my spine. I turned toward the sound, my heart racing. The little girl was now sandwiched between her mother and the paramedics, her eyes wide with fear, a reflection of what I, too, felt, an echo of vulnerability lying just beneath the surface. Stay here. He'll be right back, I said to Rachel as I advanced, almost instinctually, toward the source of the distress. I didn't know what I would find, but the despair in that single cry propelled me forward. With each step, a whirlwind of emotion surged through me. Memories of my own childhood flashed before Meto's moments of helplessness that melded with playfulness and laughter. Was I still that same child, grappling with insecurities while desperately seeking acceptance? The thought felt too heavy, yet I found the strength to push through it. As I rounded the corner, I saw a small boy, maybe 6 or 7, with a disheveled hair and tears streaking down his cheeks. He was clutching a worn-out teddy bear, its fur matted and stained. The sight tugged at something deep within me, a resonance of both empathy and urgency. "What happened?" I asked, crouching down to his level, my heart aching for the lost innocence in his eyes. "I can't find my mom," he sobbed, the words escaping his lips like little darts of pain. "Okay, it's all right," I said, trying to steady my own voice. "Do you remember where you last saw her?" He nodded, pointing down the street towards the playground where laughter had once echoed like music. In a flash, I understood that fear can both rally us or imprison us, and here, in this moment, I had the chance to break the cycle. "I'll help you find her," I promised, standing tall and extending my hand to him. "Let's go together." As he took my hand, I felt the warmth of that small connection wrap around us, a flicker of hope amidst chaos. Together we retraced his steps, weaving through the crowd that had gathered, their faces painted with concern and curiosity. I drew strength from the little boy's trembling resolve, thankful for the clarity he unknowingly gifted me in this moment of shared vulnerability. And meanwhile, I could sense the millionaire's presence lingering in the background, watching. His expression was inscrutable, yet I felt as if beneath the polished facade, there lurked a blend of admiration and deeper contemplation. Was he recognizing the humanity in me, a chef rediscovering her purpose not through food, but through connection? It thrilled and terrified me. We reached the playground, the cacophony of happy children ringing in our ears like an ironic melody against the starkness of the moment. Around us, laughter echoed, a bitter reminder of the fragility of joy. The boy squeezed my hand tighter as we scanned the area, searching there. He exclaimed suddenly, his little face lighting up like a lantern. I followed his gaze, landing on a woman rushing towards us, her panic palpable as she called out, "Daniel!" The moment their eyes met, it was as if the world fell away beneath them. Daniel's face burst into a grin as he let go of my hand, sprinting toward his mother. The raw emotion of their reunion stung at my throat, and I looked on, gripped by an unquantifiable mixture of joy and longing. But even as I reveled in the small victory, a dark shadow crept back into my thoughts. Could I find that same connection with Rachel? Could I take back what I had lost to fear as she summoned the courage to restore her own ambitions? As I turned away from the spectacle of love, all I could see was the simmering uncertainty ahead. Then, a swift movement caught my eye. The figure lurking in the shadows, its presence pulsed with something that seemed innately dangerous yet alluring. My pulse quickened as I inched closer. It felt like fate teetering on the edge, about to spill forth secrets that could change everything. Do you see something? I heard the millionaire's voice behind me, low and steady, but tinged with an undeniable edge. The words caught in my throat as I turned to face him, fully aware of the storm brewing within me. I could no longer ignore the brewing tempest that hung over us all. What is happening here? In that moment, the stranger stepped into the light. The odds, the uncertainties, and the weight of unspoken questions coalesced into a single heart-stopping connection. And then, just as I registered the stranger's face, a realization struck me with the force of a tidal wave. The truth was more startling than anything I could have imagined. My past had returned, intertwined with the present, bringing forth a revelation that would shape not just my future, but the lives of those around me. In the midst of heartfelt warmth and chaotic uncertainty, I felt like a ship caught between the storm and calm, a transient soul, caught in the throes of destiny with no way to turn back. The weight of the stranger's face crashed over me like a wave, pulling me under. There was something hauntingly familiar about his features, as if the fabric of my life had been woven with threads I thought were long unraveled. My breath hitched in my chest, the eyes bore into my soul with a piercing intensity coated in shadows of regret and longing. "How could this be? Is it really you?" I whispered, the question slipping out like a breathless prayer. The stranger hesitated, a flicker of recognition sparking in his eyes. The moment felt suspended in time, a portrait of a past I had worked so hard to mold into something unrecognizable. "It's been a long time," he finally replied, his voice steady but heavy-laden with unspoken history. Too many memories surged back, chaotic and relentless, our laughter echoing against the walls of forgotten kitchens, shared dreams overshadowed by a chasm of silence and misunderstandings. I had imagined seeing him again countless times, but reality tasted far more bitter than the sweetness of nostalgia would have promised. "What are you doing here?" I asked, scanning his face for signs of the boy I once knew, the bright-eyed dreamer who had shared midnight conversations with me about our futures. But all that glimmered now was a facade of worldliness, the sheen of success cloaking a heart I could barely decipher. "I came to understand," he said, his gaze unwavering. "About us. About everything." As he spoke, I could feel the million-dollar questions bubbling beneath the surface. Was he here to reclaim those memories? To tear open old wounds that had only begun to scab? Or had fate, in all its unpredictability, led him here as a catalyst for something unprepared to resurface? A sudden jolt broke through my spiraling thoughts, a reminder I wasn't in this alone. Rachel's face loomed large in my mind, her own battles evident in her gait and determination. No matter where my past directed me, I could not forsake the present, with all its trembling hopes. "You don't belong here," I said, forcing a strength I did not quite feel. "You don't understand the world I live in anymore. Or perhaps it's you who don't know the shadows I've walked through," he countered, his voice softening just enough to let me glimpse the vulnerability beneath his polished exterior. Before I could respond, the ground beneath me shifted, the cacophony of the playground fading into a dull murmur as Rachel approached, her presence a grounding force amidst this disorienting whirlwind. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked, her brow furrowing with concern as she took in the scene, the stranger and I, locked in an unspoken confrontation that seemed to linger like the last grains of sand slipping through an hourglass. The moment hung, suspended between past and present, as Daniel's laughter echoed joyfully in the distance, a stark reminder that life continued even as I stood at this crossroads. "Do you know him?" Rachel's voice broke through, bringing me back from the brink. I hesitated again, caught between shields and swords, the truth clawing at my insides. "Not like that," I replied, though the lie curled harshly on my tongue. But before Rachel could probe deeper, the millionaire, now a shadowy figure looming, stepped forward again. The tension in the air crackled, each heartbeat a residue of words unsaid. "We should consider what we're all really searching for," he suggested, his steady gaze moving between us, but I could sense his power shifting, surprised by the emotional weight surfing our turbulent currents. "Everyone's searching for something, aren't they?" I thought, bitterness seeping into my thoughts. "But some paths are fraught with thorns only to lead you back to yourself." For an almost imperceptible moment, I met the eyes of the stranger again, and within that tenuous connection, an understanding shimmeried, a world of possibilities colliding with a past I had tried to forget. Could he be the key to unlocking Rachel's hopes? Or would this truth unravel everything I had worked so hard to mend? As uncertainty churned within me like a tempest, Rachel took a step closer, breaking the intimate tension with her earnest expression. "What's going on?" she pressed, her concern radiating and warmth that felt like a lifeline. The room constricted around me, all eyes on the unraveling drama that threatened to tear us apart even as it sought to knit us together anew. And somewhere deep down, a whisper urged me to toe the line between vulnerability and resilience, between past pain and present longing. But as I began to speak, ready to finally bridge the gaping chasm that separated us, a loud crash erupted from the direction of the playground. In an instant, all eyes shifted. My heart dropped as I whipped around to see a commotion swirling around Daniel and his mother. He had tripped and fallen, the thrill of laughter dissolving into cries of alarm. Shock gripped me, and for the second time that day, I felt my heart race, tethered to that child who was just trying to reclaim his happiness. Incoming chaos pulled my attention away from the stranger and the millionaire, prompting a choice tense and fraught with uncertainty. Would I run toward the danger, or continue to navigate the treacherous waters within? As Rachel grabbed my arm, her grip unyielding, I couldn't shake the sudden realization looming behind me: fear can freeze us, but it can also teach us to fight. And in that fear, I sensed a buried flame igniting once again, driving Musil toward a future neither of us were prepared to face. The air became heavier as I moved toward the playground, the cries piercing through the haze of confusion. Instinct drove me, a rush of adrenaline surging as I desperately dodged swinging arms and startled faces. As I neared, I could see Daniel sprawled on the ground, his face twisted in a grimace while his mother knelt beside him, her hands clasped around his small frame like protectors against the disarray. "Daniel!" I shouted, my heart clutching painfully in my chest. He blinked up at me, the shadows of fear mingling with recognition in his wide, innocent eyes. "Mom! I am okay," he sobbed, clearly not convinced, as his mother inspected his scraped knee. The sight of blood pooling against the asphalt made my stomach churn. I dropped beside him, my own fears momentarily dissipating in the face of his. "Let me see," I urged, gently lifting his chin so he could meet my gaze. "Hey, you're going to be okay. You're strong, right?" He nodded, tears streaming down his cheeks as he tried to wear a brave face for me. I brushed my thumb across the tear-streaked skin. "Look at this tough guy. Just a little scratch." My voice was soft, a whisper of calm that seemed to weave its way through the chaos. Behind me, the stranger and Rachel stood frozen, the weight of their own unspoken tension suddenly distractingly apparent. For the moment, the illusion of three people tethered to memories shattered, replaced with the urgent melting of laughter into screams and the tangible present demanding our attention. "Why did you run so fast?" Rachel's light, gentle question broke through my focus, directed at Daniel as she crouched down beside us. "You're going to scare everyone off the playground." Daniel sniffed, offering her a weak smile, the corners of his mouth threatening to lift under her kindness. But even as she comforted him, I could see the shimmer of concern flickering in her eyes, mirroring my own. "I got excited," he mumbled. But then I fell. The weight of embarrassment seeped through his words, resonating within me. I knew that feeling well, excitement replaced by anxiety, anticipation overshadowed by shame. I glanced back at the stranger, who had taken a step closer, his expression shifting from guardedness to an unsettling understanding. In that moment, I made a choice. "All right, Daniel," I said, bolstering my own resolve. "Let's stand up together, okay?" "I'm here to help." In tandem, we rose, and my heart soared as he found his footing, the marked pain of the moment already beginning to fade beneath our shared laughter. "You'll be the hero of the playground now," I proclaimed, my bravado pitching disbelief into the whirlwind of emotions. Before Daniel could respond, the sound of his mother's voice broke through, filled with relief yet fraught with concern. "Stay close to me, sweetie. Just a few scrapes, but I'm glad you're all right. Just a scratch, Mrs. Lee." Daniel beamed, the light flickering back into his eyes. Suddenly, laughter erupted from another group of children nearby, infusing the air with a lightness that began to lift the heaviness threading through the crowd. Without considering the storm brewing behind me, I felt the weight of a tiny hand wrap around my finger. Daniel's grip was small but firm, an anchor pulling me away from the uncertainty I felt toward the stranger's presence. "Let's go play," he exclaimed, breaking free and tugging me along with newfound adrenaline. His innocence recharged me. This was the magic of childhood, an unwavering spirit that clung fiercely to joy despite the unpredictability of life. I followed suit, my worry momentarily pushed to the back, caught in the turbulent dance of laughter amidst scattered toys and delighted squeals. But even as I lost myself in this moment, the stranger stood motionless at the edge of the playground, a quiet observer wallowing in missed connections and unchangeable circumstances. And with a glance too quick to decipher, he met my eyes as if trying to piece together a puzzle I wasn't ready to solve. It coursed through me, an unrelenting familiarity, igniting ghosts I thought had finally been laid to rest. What's more, the sharp sting of regret mixed with an unfamiliar twinge of longing made my stomach churn. As moments waned into daylight and shadows lengthened, the weight of the encounter hung in the air, tethering me between my responsibility to the present and the unfinished business of the past. While the playground buzzed with life, I felt an echo, his presence shifting like the tides, drawing me in with the pull of unanswered questions. And then it happened. There, amidst the laughter, Rachel approached us, her eyes narrowing slightly as she attempted to catch the faintest hints of our electric tension. "Hey," she called, voice steady, "I meant to ask, what did you mean when you said you were here to understand?" The question became a catalyst, crackling through the air like electricity, drawing me back to the confrontation that had slipped through my fingers. I turned toward the stranger involuntarily, my pulse racing, knowing this could unravel our fragile peace or lead us into tumultuous waters. Breathless, I awaited his answer, sensing the possibility of hope unraveling in the dark intensity of his gaze. And just then, as if the universe conspired to both open doors and seal them shut, a phone buzzed loudly among the gathered group. Several heads turned toward the sound, including Rachel's. My breath quickened at the sight of her expression, alert and shadow-eyed, a twist of concern that felt too familiar for comfort. "Whose phone is that?" she asked, scanning the children's gathered belongings. But as my eyes traced back, I caught the stranger's gaze lingering on me, an unspoken challenge sparking something deeper beneath the surface. Would this moment send me spiraling back into a past I was so desperately trying to escape, or would it bind us together in a way that none of us could possibly foresee? The ground felt unsteady beneath my feet, holding no stability in this emotional tempest that was only beginning to swirl. As the phone continued to ring, I realized the answer to Rachel's question might shift everything once again, carrying with it echoes of both hope and despair. And in the depths of my gut, the certainty clawed at me that whatever happened next would set the course for our intertwined fates. The phone's incessant ringing reverberated through the park, each chime pulling the moment taut like a bowstring ready to snap. I darted, searching for the source of the sound that threatened to unravel the fragile tapestry of connection we had woven in the aftermath of chaos. My heart pounded, suddenly aware that the warmth of childhood laughter could be fleeting, easily eclipsed by the harsh impermanence of reality. "Could you check your pockets?" Rachel's voice sounded almost robotic, an impersonal urgency breaking through the thick atmosphere. She stepped back slightly, leaving an unexpected chasm between her and the stranger, whose eyes were locked onto me. It was a gaze filled with a mix of intensity and yearning, and in an instant, the comfort of the playground dulled against the sharpness of this new tension. Without thinking, I rummaged through my own pockets, as if somehow my phone could diffuse the situation. But it wasn't mine. The realization merely added another layer of unease. I glanced at Daniel, who was now standing a few feet away, engrossed in a game with other children, blessedly unaware of the adult drama unfolding. The stranger's hand lifted to his smart device. Without any hesitation, he answered. "Hello?" he said, his voice dropping to a hushed murmur. A fleeting moment of recognition flickered behind his eyes as he listened, brows knitting together in concern. It was captivating and unsettling at once, the transformation from a guarded observer to a man with secrets layered beneath the surface. "Sir, I understand," he said, the gravity of the words tightening the air around us as he spoke. "He'll handle it right away." His eyes found mine once more, the connection electric and unnerving, and I felt the pull of silence stretching between us as he ended the call. "I have to go." There was a breathlessness to his voice as he glanced toward the exit. And just like that, so suddenly the moment seemed to collapse. "Wait!" I blurted, not knowing what drove the urgency within me. "What about us? What you were saying?" His gaze flickered, a mix of compassion and something unyielding swirling beneath the surface, but he shook his head. "I can't explain now. But you need to know, this isn't over. He'll be back." He took a step backward, the impending departure hanging heavily like a storm cloud, charged with unfulfilled promises. "Why don't you just tell me now?" The words escaped before I could catch them, mingled with desperation and frustration. In a fleeting moment, I wanted to grab hold of the moment, to snatch answers from the air before they evaporated into nothingness. "I really wish I could," he replied, the raw sincerity in his tone cutting through me, making the world around us blur for an instant. "But some things require more than words." His lips quirked into a small, sad smile, as if he had already accepted the inevitable distance between us. And just like that, with one final, piercing look, he turned and entered the world outside the playground, swallowed by the crowd and uncertainty. My stomach twisted, the mix of relief and despair coiling tightly within, leaving behind a gaping hole, one that suggested this was far from finished. Rachel, momentarily stunned by the exchange, shook her head and stepped closer. Her brow furrowed in thought. "What was that about?" Her voice had shifted from concern to curiously interrogative. "I don't know," I replied, the words thick with frustration. He said he wanted to understand, but now I trailed off, unable to express, the confusion tightening like a vice around my heart. Her gentle encouragement was palpable, the kindness of a friend aiming to untangle the mess of emotion swirling wildly. Maybe he's one of those people carrying something heavy. "You'll see." But what comforted me one moment became an anchor, weighing me down the next. The uncertainty pushed against the edges of my mind, gnawing at me while I stared at the emptiness where he had stood. The laughter of children echoed around us, yet I felt like I was trapped in a memory hazy from too much time past, ebbing on the cusp of revelation, and that's when the weight of realization hit me. My energy had unwittingly been transferred, absorbed from the moment, and now surrounded by lightness and joy. There was Daniel, still laughing and playing, and for a moment, his unwavering innocence soothed my aching heart as it fought against the churning turmoil inside. As I turned back to face Rachel, the scene around us began to shift, crackling with the energy of secrets barely spoken. And that's when my phone vibrated in my pocket, startling me. Flinching, I pulled it out, my breath hitching. What I found there made my heart race anew. A message from an unrecognized number: "We need to talk. Meet me at 7." The chill that crept up my spine felt electric, intertwining anxiety with a powerful sense of urgency that flooded my senses. I exchanged a look with Rachel, who had been leaning in closer to read the words with me, confusion replacing her calm. "Who is it?" she asked, her voice dropping to a whisper, full of curiosity and concern. "I don't know," I admitted, the truth heavy in my throat. "But it seems like I have no choice but to find out." Rachel placed a comforting hand on my shoulder, yet the warmth of her gesture seemed overshadowed by the looming darkness of unresolved questions, and the invisible thread that bound me to the stranger tightened, fraying at the edges of what the night might reveal. "Whatever it is," she said softly, "you're not alone." And with those simple words, she fortified my courage, though deep down I felt the storm brewing just out of sight, destined to push us all into the unknown. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the park as I walked home, my hands trembling slightly around my phone. The message flashed like a beacon, coaxing dread and curiosity in equal measure. I glanced back towards the swings, where laughter still echoed faintly. With each step, the carefree joy felt like a distant memory, a bubble about to burst. Rachel had promised to stay with me until the meeting, but the weight of my thoughts propelled me forward, leaving her behind to gather her own fragments of the day. I needed to think, to resolve the knot of concern twisting in my gut. As I entered my apartment, the familiar scent of lavender from the diffuser greeted me, wrapping around me like a comforting embrace. But inside, my heart felt anything but settled. I dropped my keys on the counter, and they clinked against the ceramic bowl, breaking the stillness. My thoughts spiraled back to the man in the park, the intrigue in his eyes, the urgency in his departure. Why did I feel so deeply compelled by his presence when he was nothing but a fleeting figure in my life? I sank onto the couch, cradling my head in my hands. To what end had this jolt of uncertainty come? As minutes ticked by, I tried to calculate who might have sent the text. Was it a friend in need? A foe from the past? Or could it possibly be him, returning to explain the cryptic threads that had tethered us together? The myriad questions wrestled within, refusing to settle. With newfound determination, I responded, my fingers shaking as I typed a simple reply: "Where?" After sending it off, I paced the small living room, annoyed with my own agitation. The clock's steady ticking underlined the silence, almost mocking me with its mundane consistency. What was this sense of duty that compelled me? I had no reason to trust anything about a stranger, especially one so shrouded in mystery. And yet, I felt a brief flicker of a connection I couldn't ignore. The light of my phone flickered to life moments later. I flinched, holding my breath as I read the new message: the old cafe near the river. 7 p.m. Come alone. A chill coursed through me at the final two words, and I fought the instinct to feel niche apprehension swirling around me, pressing down like a weight that wouldn't let go. I had a decision to make. The cafe was known for its eclectic atmosphere, a quaint spot that leaned into the artistic brilliance of the city, a place where love, loss, and dreams coalesced with every brewed cup. I'd often found solace there, nursing lattes and watching lives unfold in the unhurried ebb and flow of conversation. But now, a shadow loomed over it, waiting to cast its dark presence onto the scene. After biting my lip, I reached for my purse, a flicker of resolve lighting up inside me. Rachel's earlier words echoed: "Whatever it is, you're not alone." I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to face this alone, that the answers awaited only me. With time's march unrelenting, the sun fully vanished behind the horizon, keen to embrace the mysteries of the night. I donned a casual outfit, light but defensively layered. A sense of impending change hung in the air like smoke, clinging to my skin, but a pulse of excitement fluttered within the depths of my uncertainty. I arrived at the cafe minutes before the hour, the soft glow from within welcoming me like a siren song. My heart thudded, each step feeling both welcome and confounding as I pushed the door open. The rich aroma of coffee wrapped around me, but it couldn't mask the knot of anticipation sitting heavily in my stomach. Every table was filled with familiar faces lost in their own world, couples whispering sweet nothings, artists sketching the moments between, and friends laughing lightly, oblivious. But my focus was solely on a table in the back corner, where a man sat alone, dripping with an unrefined confidence. The flash of shock coursed through me as I recognized him. David, a local millionaire whose name sparkled like glitter in the tabloids, but it wasn't just his fame that made my heart race, it was the undeniable twist of recognition in his gaze. He looked up, our eyes locking with an intensity that felt surreal. In that moment, a flicker of warmth surged, a fleeting reminder that human connection could defy the chaos around us. But it was quickly overshadowed by the weight of circumstance that clung to his presence, hinting at an agenda heavier than casual conversation. "Thanks for coming," he said with a subtle smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I figured you might want some answers." With every word, the air thickened, possibilities unfurling, each fraught with uncertainty. But just as questions began to rise within me, the cafe door swung open, and a gust of wind wafted in, heralding a sudden sense of tension. My heart sank further as a figure entered, one cloaked in shadows, moving with an unmistakable urgency. David's demeanor shifted, a mixture of alarm and composure overlaying his features. "We need to hurry," he said, the words laced with the kind of fear that made my heart flutter. "What do you mean?" My voice shook slightly, uncertainty clawing at the wiring of my mind. Before he could answer, the figure stepped closer, revealing a familiar face twisted in melancholy yet fierce, the weight of an unspoken history bubbling just beneath the surface. As they approached, my senses screamed some things were about to spin into chaos. "Come on, you both have to listen to me. It's about him," they said, and the storm that pressed against my chest began to crack open, the world around me blurring with the realization that the entanglement had only begun. Each heartbeat vibrated at the seams as my disbelief mingled with dread and all hope teetered on the edge of something I couldn't quite grasp. The air inside the cafe grew heavy with questions, swirling around me like the thick fog rolling in from the river outside. The familiar scent of roasted coffee beans that once wrapped me in comfort now felt suffocating as I stared at the figure before me. Clara! My childhood friend, the one who had vanished without a trace just as my life began to tip into turmoil. Clara? My voice came out a whisper, laced with disbelief. "What are you doing here? Why did you?" My words tripped over themselves, and the chaotic tangle of emotions in my chest threatened to explode. I didn't choose to come back like this. Clara's eyes flicked nervously between David and me. Her usually vibrant demeanor now seemed hollowed by something darker. "There's so much you don't know. We're not safe." I shifted uncomfortably as David's presence loomed close, his expression unreadable. "What do you mean, not safe?" I asked, trying to grasp the situation, but everything felt as elusive as soft summer rain. "It's about the offers Hez received," Clara said cautiously. "And what they really mean. Not just business, but lives are at stake." Her voice trembled slightly, the gravity of her words weighing heavily in the air. "I didn't come back for the life you think I left behind," she continued, her gaze meeting mine steadily. "I came back to warn you both." David leaned back slightly, observing Clara with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "What do you know?" His tone was calm, but even my untrained eye could see the tension rippling beneath the surface. Clara took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts like scattered puzzle pieces. "Remember the rumors about corruption in the city? The deals going south? They're more than just whispers. There are people, powerful people who would go to great lengths to protect their interests. And David has become a focal point without even realizing it." She shot a quick look at David, her expression pleading. David's brow furrowed, and I could see the internal struggle flicker across his face. "I am not involved in anything illegal," he declared, but the certainty in his tone felt shaky. "What do you mean I'm a focal point?" Before Clara could respond, the door swung open once more, sending a cold gust of wind through the room, and I caught sight of a man standing outside, his silhouette sharp against the warmly lit interior. My breath hitched before I recognized him. Liam, my younger brother, whose face was suddenly contorted with urgency and dread. "Get out!" he shouted, his voice cutting through the ambient noise of chatter. "Now!" The cafe's atmosphere shifted from cozy to chaotic, patrons glancing around in confusion. Clara's eyes widened, a mix of fear and anger flashing across her features like lightning racing through a storm. "Liam? What are you doing here?" I stepped forward, but Clara grabbed my arm forcefully. "You need to listen to him, you're all in danger," Clara insisted. "We can talk later, but right now you need to leave." Together. As the tension thickened in the air, I looked between the two brothers, the familiar warmth of home clashing with an unfolding danger that felt intertwined in my very core. David's expression darkened, he leaned towards me, his voice low. "What's going on?" "Who is this?" "That's my brother," I replied, glancing back toward the door. "And if Hez here, it means something's gone very wrong." Liam was already rushing towards us, and I could see the fear etched in his features, the way his hands trembled ever so slightly. "Please," he pleaded, "you don't know what they're capable of. We need to move." All of us suddenly, the familiar comfort of cafes and laughter twisted into something sinister as I felt the walls close in. My heart raced as adrenaline surged through my veins, propelling me forward even as uncertainty weighed me down. "Who are they?" I asked, though the answer tasted bitter on my tongue. "You'll know soon enough," Liam shot back, desperation pouring from every word, but I caught a glimmer of fear in his eyes that deepened my confusion. David reached for my hand, and even though the world around us spun in turmoil, his grasp felt like an anchor, grounding me. "We need a plan." "Clara, explain everything." "Not here," Clara insisted, her voice dropping to a whisper. "But the park, there's somewhere we can talk, where they won't find us." The urgency in her tone left no room for argument, and as I glanced around the cafe, the eager voices faded into a lingering haze. My reality felt fragile, the ground beneath me shifting as raw emotions permeated the air. "Then let's go," I replied, steeling my resolve. There was no turning back now. As we moved towards the exit, the door swung open again, but this time it wasn't just a gust of wind carrying the chill of uncertain tie. It was an unexpected figure stepping forward, one I never expected to see. "Stop right there," a familiar voice called out, and my world momentarily tilted on its axis once more. The figure in the doorway was none other than my estranged father, the man who had walked out of my life years ago without a second glance. Our eyes met in a collision of unaddressed emotions, his presence a storm of memories and broken fragments. "Do not trust them," he said, and with those words, the delicate threads of hope I had been clutching threatened to unravel completely, leaving me standing at the edge of a cliff I feared to leap from. The room fell silent, the air grown thick with tension, as I stood frozen at the threshold of conflicting histories. My heart pounded, the echoes of my father's voice ricocheting painfully through the cacophony of thoughts storming my mind. "Dad?" The word came out almost as a whisper, laden with disbelief and a torrent of unshed emotion. How was it possible? He had long disappeared from my life, finding refuge in shadows and harsh silence. I had often convinced myself that our connection had been severed irrevocably, each missed moment a reminder of a history riddled with disappointment. David's grip tightened around my hand as he leaned closer, whispering, "Is that your father?" "Yes," I managed, though his mere presence sent a wave of confusion crashing over me. "What are you doing here?" The question, tinged with both anger and longing, held a weight far greater than any could bear. "I came to warn you," he said, his voice a mix of urgency and shame. "You can't trust any of them." His eyes darted anxiously from David to Clara, revealing a deeper turmoil beneath hardened veneers. "I made mistakes, but you need to listen to me. They're not who they claim to be." The air pulsated with palpable unease as Clara stepped forward, a defensive posture radiating from her. "You have no right to come back here, after all these years." She spat, her voice rising. "You left her to fend for herself." A flicker of pain crossed my father's face. "I know. But I can't let you make the same mistakes I did. Staying loyal to the wrong people can cost you everything." David's eyes narrowed, a protective shield forming around him as he sensed the crackling tension. What do you know about loyalty? He asked, his voice steely. Enough, my father replied sharply. I don't have time for this. You need to leave now, before it's too late. Something within me stirred, a strange mix of anger and confusion, as years of abandonment rushed back, colliding violently with the child who still longed for some semblance of familial love. And where should I go? I shot back, fueled by the years of asking that very question into the void. You left? You gave up on us? His gaze softened momentarily, revealing the cracks in a facade built on fear. I know I did. And I'm sorry. But I can't lose you, too. It felt surreal to hear those words, almost as if a long-lost melody filtered through the air, entwined with echoes of everything left unresolved between us. But just as bitterness clawed at my insides, I felt the shadows creeping close again of Clara's fear, of Liam's desperation, and of David's unwavering presence behind me. Without warning, Clara's voice rang out firmly. Enough. We don't have time for this. She turned to me, her eyes resolute. You can't let nostalgia cloud your judgment. We need to trust each other and expose the real danger. Liam nodded, stepping closer. Clara's right. Whatever your father has been through, it doesn't change what's at stake now. The air hung heavy, yet there flickered a sense of clarity amid the chaos. Was this moment a reckoning, a chance to break the cycle of loss and fear, or would it plunge us deeper into despair? I felt a swell of courage rising, grounding me. Maybe it was time to navigate through the mess of hurt and rediscover the fractured pieces that could find wholeness again. With a deep breath, I summoned the fortitude I had polished all these years. I don't want to live in fear anymore, I announced, my voice steady. And I don't want to let the past dictate what my future looks like. Whatever this is, Hartover, we find out tonight. I am ready to face it. For a moment, the crack in the facade tightened as everyone registered my resolve. My father's expression faltered, surprise flickering across his features, as if perhaps he had expected me to cower beneath the weight of our history. The corner of David's mouth twitched upward, a hint of admiration mixed with something deeper, potentially regret. But let's not forget, trust needs to be earned. So let's talk, he said, glancing between Clara and Liam as they nodded in agreement. As we moved towards the cafe exit, uncertainty loomed ahead like a storm cloud, but a flicker of hope dug in deep. Perhaps, just perhaps, healing could reside somewhere amidst the truth shared and the resilience forged in chaos. Stepping out into the cool night, I adjusted my posture, no longer merely a product of my past, but an architect of my destiny. Tell me everything, I said, my voice unwavering. And as the first drops of rain began to fall, mingling with the warmth of newfound purpose, I stepped into the unfolding narrative of my life, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. In that instant, I realized that the most potent ingredient in the recipe of my journey had always been the choice to embrace both the shadows and light. For in the blending of our experiences, an extraordinary symphony breathed life into what was once only silence. As we walked side by side, I grasped David's hand, relishing the unknown yet unfolding chapters, and the surreal comfort of the tangling threads of family, friendship, and love, forever shifting, endlessly resilient. And in that quiet moment, I felt the latent power of promise's unbroken whisper through my veins, awakening something fiercely alive, the belief that what lies ahead is not simply a continuation of my past, but an invitation to create something infinitely more beautiful. Let's find a way forward together, I declared, exhilaration rushing through me like a tide, ready to face whatever was to come. And just like that, the past folded into itself as the present surged towards the horizon, a vision intertwined with the promise of all that could be.